أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. قال الإمام علي عليه السلام: Amusement brings discontent to the merciful, pleases Satan, and it makes one forget the Quran. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, amusement brings discontent to the merciful, pleases Satan, and it makes one forget the Quran. قال الإمام علي عليه السلام: اللهو يسخط الرحمن ويرضي الشيطان وينسي القرآن. أستغرب من بعض الناس. They said we have too much time. عندنا وقت هواي نريد نضيع، عندنا وقت فراغ. ما أعرف يعني واحد منين يصير عنده وقت الفراغ، وهذا الوقت يمر علينا وبعد ما يرجع ومحسوب، وإحنا في تناقص الوقت وما ندري. عندنا هواي أشياء إحنا ما مكمليها لا بدنيتنا ولا بآخرتنا، ونقعد نلهي نفسنا بأمور ما تفيدنا، واقعا ما تفيدنا. أستغرب هواي، أستغرب من واحد يقول لي أريد أتونس. أو بعض الأحيان أنتوا الأمهات تقولون لأبنائكم: ماما تونسوا بعدكم صغار لا تضيعون العمر. لا بابا، لا، غلطانات. من هسه أني أربي ابني وبنتي على معرفة الله، على عبادة الله، على إنه شون تقضي الوقت اللي يسمونه وقت الفراغ في طلب العلم، طلب الدرس. هذه هواي مهم عندكم. يعني أنتوا لا تجون على ذول الأطفال يكونون ضحية لكم. الله أنعم عليكم بالأطفال، فالأطفال اللي صاروا عندكم نعمة كنت تعرفون قيمتها، كنت تأدون حقها. لا تطلعون بعدين أنتم مطلوبين وأنتم تعاقبون على النعمة اللي عندكم. الله انطاني أطفال، أنا شو أسوي؟ هذول الأطفال أحاول أوكلهم، أسمنهم على مود أذبحهم بالعيد. شنو يعني؟ لو النقص اللي كان عندي بأيام الفقر مالتي هسه أجيب له آيباد وأجيب له تليفون وأحط له سيارة وأحط له مدري شنو، وبعد تشوفونه بالإعدادي سيارته أحسن من سيارات المدرسين وأحسن من سيارات. زين هذا شو وقت يتعب؟ إيش قد يعرف للحياة معنى وطعام؟ إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. طيب، with Islamic laws, we reach to issue number 491. If a woman who has the habit of time and duration, this woman has the habit of time and duration, both of them are what? Are fixed. Sees blood in her habit for 3 or more days. In her habit means what? In the duration that she sees the blood each month, the same duration. She sees the blood 3. You know why 3? In order to make it what? Make it hayd. But for less than her usual period. But less than her usual number of days. So, the same time, but what? Lesser than her days. For example, she used to see the blood for 10 days. Now she sees the blood in the same time, but with lesser days. For example, 7 days. Okay? Let's say 3 days, and then stops and see blood for another discharge. Let's continue with the issue. But for less than her usual number of days, and then her blood stops and thereafter is seen again for days equal to the number of days of her habit. Please, if you have a pencil, if you have a pen, go and write this. This lady has a habit of fixed day and fixed time and fixed duration. This month, what she sees blood in her habit for 3 or more days, but for less than her usual number. For example, she sees blood for 7 days. This time she sees blood for how long? For 3 days, 4 days. Lesser than what? Lesser than her habit, which was consist of 7 days. All right? But for less than her usual number of days. And then her blood stops and thereafter is seen again for days equal to the number of days of her habit. So, in the first discharge, which is in her duration, in her time, she sees blood for 4 days. She usually sees blood how long? For 7 days. Now she sees only for 4 days. Then, but those 4 days in her what? In her habit days. Then the blood stops. The blood stops. Then the discharge again. It discharge again. This discharge continue for what? For how long? A discharge for 7 days. For 7 days. So we have 2 discharges. We have 2 discharge. The first discharge 4 days, then stop tuhur. Then she seen the blood for how many? For 7 days. Stops and thereafter is seen again for days equal to the number of days of her habit. She will treat the whole period, including the intervening days, as one hayd. Is that in general? Is that in general? We have something in our mind. If the total number extends 10 days, we are going not to count what? The extra days. We only count the 10 days as what? As hayd, and the rest as istihal. So, if, look, she will treat the whole period, including the intervening days, as one hayd if it does not exceeds what? 10 days. She sees blood for 4 days. 1 day is tuhur, and she sees blood for 5 days. For 5 days. Or let's say 3, 1 tuhur, and 6 days what? As hayd, as discharge, another discharge. All of it is what? 10 days. So all of it is what? But if the number of intervening days during which she is tahir from blood is 10 days or more, what's this remind you of? If the intervening days is 10 days or more, you know what's the meaning of intervening? The tuhur days. If they are 10 days or more, what does that refer to? No. Huh? Very good. Because if you remember, between one hayd and another, we need tuhur of 10 days. Here we have 10 days or more. Here we have 10 days or more. So both of them are what? But if the number of intervening days during which she is tahir from blood is 10 days or more, then each period of bleeding will be regarded as a separate period of hayd. And if the intervening gap is less than 10 days, but the total of first, second, and intervening period exceed 10 days, then the first phase will be hayd and the second one is istihada. Now, take this in your mind. We have a lady of fixed time and duration of hayd of 10 days. Each month she sees blood for 10 days. This is her period. From the 1st of the month till the 10th of the month. Each month. This month she sees blood. Please write this down. Write it down. This month she sees blood for 3 continuous days. Then the blood stops for 2 days. The blood stops for 2 days. Then she sees the blood for another 5 days. For another 5 days. So I have 2 discharges. 3 days and 5 days and 2 intervening days. The whole is what? The whole is hayd. 3 days hayd, 5 days hayd, and the 2 days will act according just like what? Just like mustahada women. Is that clear? If in this case a woman of 10 days hayd, she sees the blood this month for 3 days and the blood stops for 1 day, then she sees the blood for 7 days. For 7 days. The total is what? 11 days. So, now. So, 10 days is hayd, including the intervening days. And the 11th day is what? That means with the 2 intervening days and day number 11, she is to act as what? As mustahad. Okay? While with the 3 days, the first phase, and the 6 days or the 5 days of the second phase, she is what? She is hayd. Good. The other thing here we have, if the number of the intervening day. Now, this lady, the same lady, she has hayd of 10 days. Okay? She sees the blood for 5 days in her time. In her time. Then the blood stops for 10 or more. Let's say for 10 days. She becomes tahir for 10 days. Then she sees the blood for other 5 days. Definitely both phases with the same description of blood. Red, thick, with irritation, and so on. Now, the first phase is what? The second phase is what? The طهر in between is what? Is طهر. Why we consider both phases as hayd? Since this lady, she used to have blood in a fixed time and duration. Why we consider it hayd? Both phases. Yes. Huh? Because we have a condition that the least number of tahur between hayd and another hayd is 10 days, and we have 10 days. This is number one. The other thing, both phases are of what? Are of 3 or more days of blood. Number two. Number three, the description or the attributes of blood are what? Are the attributes of hayd blood. That's it. Is this clear? Any question? No question? Good. Issue number 492. If a woman who has fixed habit of time and duration sees the blood for more than 10 days. The blood which she sees during the days of her habit is hayd, even though it may not have the signs of hayd. And the blood which is seen after the days of her habit is istihada, even though it may have the sign of hayd. So, the same lady with a fixed habit of time and duration, she sees the blood this month, she sees the blood for more than 10 days. For more than 10 days. Maybe 11, 12, 13, 15, maybe 20, it happens. Okay, now, what is the solution? She wants to know her worship act. You know, this is related to her worship act. She has to what? She has to inquire. She has to ask. She has to recognize. Right. Sayyidina is telling her that the first 10 days is what? The first phase is of 10 days is hayd, and the rest, the 11th, the 12th, is what? Is istihada. Is istihada. Even though that the blood in her duration, in her fixed time, does not have the description of the blood of hayd. Maybe it is yellowish. Maybe it gusts out without irritation. You understand this? So it is what? It is hayd. Or, although that the blood after the 10 days have what? The blood has the description of blood of hayd. It will be what? It will be istihada. Is this understood? You want me to explain it in Arabic? Okay. هذه ترى انتبهوا، احنا نتحدث ويا ذات العادة العددية والوقتية، مو غيرها. عددية ووقتية دائما عندها. هذا الشهر رأت الدم، والدم تجاوز 10 أيام. شو نقولها؟ بابا هذا الدم اللي تجاوز 10 أيام، تقول إيه شيخنا؟ قسم بنفس المدة داخل المدة مالتي، وقسم خارج. نقول هذا العشرة اللي داخل المدة مالتك كله تحسبينه حيض، واللي خارج المدة مالتك خارج الوقت مالتك يعتبر استحاضة. قال زين، موافقة وياك شيخنا، بس عندي سؤال آخر. شنو السؤال؟ تقول هذا اللي كان داخل المدة داخل الفترة مالتي لم يحمل صفات الدم الحيض، ما بيه صفات الدم الحيض، لا أسود ولا أحمر، أصفر وبارد. قولها إيه اعتبريه حيض. إيه قل هذا اعتبريه حيض. زين قالت شيخنا هذا الدم اللي خارج 10 يحمل صفات الحيض، نقول هذاك استحاضة. واضح الفكرة هاي؟ بلي. إيه إيه. No, the whole 10 days. The whole 10 days. Look. If a woman who has fixed habit of time and duration sees the blood for more than 10 days, the blood which she sees during the days of her habit is hayd, even though it may not have the signs of hayd, and the blood which is seen after the days of her habit is istihada, even though it may have the sign of. لحد الآن هسه كلنا نعتبره حيض. لحد الآن نعتبره. For example, if the blood of a woman whose habit is from the 1st to the 7th of the month is seen from the 1st to the 12th of the particular month, the blood which is seen during the first 7 days will be hayd, and that which is seen during the remaining 5 days will be istihada. You are right. So راح ترجع وين؟ ترجع الأيام عادة. احنا ذيك ايش حسبنا؟ ذيك حسبناها من 10 أيام ترى. ذيك حسبناها من 10 أيام. هذه لا أقل من 10. هي her habit of 7 days. her habit of 7 days. She sees the blood for 12 days. For 12 days. So the blood extended into more than 10 days. Now, she will take the 7 days at her hayd days. She quit her worship acts. And the rest 5 days will be what? Will be istihada. So she will fast. She will pray. Okay, after doing her obligatory duties. This is understood? ما صار عندكم شبهة؟ اي ترى المثال الأول اللي ضربته كان هي دورتها 10 أيام، فقلت لكم تبقى على 10 أيام. هذا المثال اللي بالكتاب عندنا دورتها 7 أيام واجتها زيادة، استمر الديسشارج مالتها إلى 12 يوم. قلنا لها ما دام استمر 12 يوم شو نسوين؟ ترجعين على 7 أيام مالتك، تاخذين هذه الحيض والبقية شي يكون استحاضة، حتى لو كان بصفات الحيض. وقتية عددية فقط، كلامنا وياه مو وياه. بل اي ها بالنفاس راح تجينا احكام النفاس، راح تجينا، ولما تجينا لها علاقه مرتبه هذا نقول هذا كما موجود في المسألة كذا. Now, women, new title, women having the habit of time only, not duration. فقط time. For example, at the beginning of the month, in the middle of the month, at the end of the month. A woman having the habit of time are of 2 types. Number 1, a woman who sees blood in each of the 2 consecutive months on a given day. A given day, for example, first day of the month, day number 10 of the month. This, she sees blood in 10th of this month, and in the consecutive month, she sees also in the 10th of that month. يعني من كل شهر نفس اليوم ترى الدم. واضح الفكرة؟ فقط عندنا time هنا. أي. And then becomes طاهر after a few days. For example, after 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, she becomes طاهر. The duration of blood varies in each month. The duration of blood varies. In the first month, she sees blood for 4 days. In the second month, she sees blood for 5 days. But in both months, it started at the same day. It started at the same day. Is this understood? Good. For example, if the blood is seen on the first of each month, but stops on the 7th in the first month and on the 8th in the second month. Why? Because we said this woman of only fixed time, not duration. Yes, any question? Her habit of time will be the first of every month. Her habit of time will be what? The first of every month. But how many days? We do not know how many days. Because each month is different from the other month. Even with 1 day. Even with 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, doesn't matter. But the beginning, the commencement day is the same. Second, this is the second time of a woman having habit of time only. Second, a woman who sees the blood in 2 consecutive months on a given day, the same day, for say 3 or more days, and then it stops and thereafter is seen again. But the total number of days does not exceed 10 days. The other part of this kind of woman which has the fixed time that this woman, she sees blood for 2 consecutive months with the same day. But the problem is where? The problem that In the first month, she sees blood for 3 days or more, 5, maybe 6. In the second month, she sees blood for 3 months, and then it stops, and it starts again. It stops, and it starts again. But the total number of days does not exceed 10 days. The total number of the second month, or maybe the first month, is not exceeding the 10 days. Maybe there are 10 or less. Maybe there are 10 or less. Okay? And thereafter seen again, but the total number of days seen does not exceed 10 days. However, the number of days during the second month, which there is in intervening days happened, يعني اللي صار بيناتهم شنو طهر, in second month is either more or less than the days in the first month. Definitely, even they are more or less, because we said that the duration is different. The time is fixed, but the duration is what is different. For example, if the blood is seen on the first day of each month of 2 consecutive months, but the total duration of days is 8 in the first month and 9 in the second month, this is why we call it only of what? Only of time, not duration. Yes, she should treat the first of the month to be her habit of time. She should treat the first month as what? As her habit time. Is this understood? Why? Why we must know which is the first day? Why? Do you know why? If you remember the foregoing issues, if she sees blood for example, two faces, from this we will consider which one is her hayd and which one is the istihada, or for how many days it will be her hayd, like what? Like the days of what? Like the days of her hayd. We said if they are 10 days or more. For this is very important. This number one. The other thing is that each one of these women has her own rules. كل واحدة من ذني إلها أحكامها. So she must know her situation, which part of hayd she is, because each kind of hayd has its own ahkam. Last issue, inshallah. Issue number 494. If a woman who has the habit of time, but the duration of her hayd is not constant. This woman has a habit of time. For example, the first of the month, she sees blood each 2 consecutive months at the first of what? Of the month. But the duration of her hayd is not constant. 7, 6, 6, 8, and so on. Sees blood on her habitual time for 2 or 3 days earlier. Now what she sees? She sees blood 2 days earlier or 3 days earlier, before the first of the month. She will treat herself as hayd. She will treat herself as hayd and act according to the details giving in rule number 486. She has to deal with herself as what? As hayd. And she must go to issue number 486 and to act accordingly. But if the blood is seen much earlier, more than 3 days, much earlier, 4, 5 days, 7 days, much earlier, so much so that it would not be considered as what? Customary. شنو يعني؟ ما معتاد عليه، هذا مو طبيعي. ممكن تتقدم يوم يومين، بالزايد 3، مو مال 5 أيام، مو مال أسبوع، مو مال 10 أيام، واستمر. So it is not customarily. It's not customary. Or if she sees it very late, look, not late, very late, maybe after 5 days, after 6 days, 7 days, she will treat herself as haid if the blood bears the signs of haid. She must treat herself as what? As haid. If the blood is what? Having or bears the same attributes of the blood of haid. Similarly, she will consider it as haid if she is sure that the bleeding will continue for 3 days. But she has to be sure that the blood is continuing for how long? For 3 days. Maybe she sees blood early or later, but the blood may be continue for 2 days. 2 days is not haid. 2 days is not haid. But she must be sure that that this blood will continue for at least 3 days, because as you know, the lesser days of haid, 3 days. Even if the blood bears no semblance of haid, even the blood is what? Is yellowish. It doesn't gush out. It doesn't gush out with irritation. But the most important point is what? Continuing for how long? For 3 days. And if she is not sure whether this sort of bleeding will last for 3 days or not, or maybe she is not sure that this case will continue for 3 days or not, she must what? She must treat herself as what? As haid. Okay, how? Or yes, how if later on it seems that it wasn't haid? What she has to do? Definitely, when she considers herself as haid, what she did? She quit her worship activities. Am I right? She stopped praying, she stopped fasting, she stopped doing many things. Okay? Now, after 2 days, the blood stops. The bleeding stops. She has to give qada. Very good. She has to give qada. She has to give qada for those 2 days. Then, as per obligatory precaution, she will do all these acts which are wajib for a mustahada. What does that mean? That means she has to pray and to fast if it is Ramadan. And refrain from all those acts which are forbidden to haid. All the acts which are forbidden to haid, you know what they are? All of them she has to quit from them. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والعن عدوهم.